So let's go on to heart. In heart, we're going to talk about companionship and connection and choosing relationships that lift us up. That's the important caveat. Connection and companionship, obviously, I think to all of us are very important. Now, some of us need our alone time for sure, and that's how we recharge, and that's great. But we have to be careful not to get too isolated, and we need to always be connecting and reconnecting with other people. So that's the companionship piece. The key to really making this work for you and work for the other person as well is having it be a relationship that lifts you up. So we're going to talk about 2 tools around designing relationships that lift you up. And the first thing we're going to talk about is deep listening. Deep listening is a slow and focused skill. This is when you sit and you get really present with whatever you're listening to. In this case, we're going to talk about you're listening to a person, and a person that you're in person with, or on a phone or FaceTime call. And the skill is this simple. You have quieted your mind so that you're tracking with every single word that this person is saying, which might be very different than what you're used to doing. You may notice as you start to practice this, I hear a few words word for word, and then something lands that I take a hold of, and I start processing it in my own brain, and I start thinking about what I want to say back to that person, and then I'm waiting for them to finish so I can say that thing, and you are no longer a listener. You are no longer present for the well-being of that person. Now you're holding the space for you to say what matters to you, and you've lost the listening. So the call here in deep listening is to track it word for word. You're at ease so that you can really let your mind be present with the words that you're hearing. And then the next most important part of this is, at the end, you allow quiet. Response is not required. It's maybe not even wanted. What we really want as humans is to be heard. We don't really want to be responded to, quite honestly. We don't necessarily want to be, our kids don't necessarily want to be, our grandchildren, our neighbors, our friends, they want to be heard. Because in hearing them, you're saying, you matter. You're saying, what you have to say is important, which says you matter. There's no greater gift, honestly, that you can give anyone than to be a deeply present listener. So that's a skill that's really key in growing resonant relationships that lift you up. So you start modeling it for the people that you're in conversation with, and you can even share with them, ask them to listen, if they would listen to you, so you could share about, I'm practicing this. Maybe we could practice it together. And then if someone wants a response or feedback, you can share with each other that you'll ask for it if there's something you need in response. And if you don't want a response, you'll say, I just want to talk. I don't really want to be responded to. Will you just listen to me? What a great gift. So on the first page, we're going to write down how it occurs to you now, listening to me. How do you want to go forward from here practicing this skill? Maybe who with, what situations in. I will tell you that if you want to do like homework around this, put on a podcast, put on a TED Talk, and get really good at listening word for word. This is not about taking something out and forming an opinion. Nope. Listening word for word. That's one way you can practice it before you put it in action. But on the page, I want you to think about, because we're working on relationships here, what relationship would you like to practice this in? And what notes do you want to make about what you notice about how other people do this with you? All right, I'll give you a few minutes here, and then we'll come back. This is important work. I appreciate you taking time with it. So let's connect that one with the next one, which is setting boundaries. This is about saying yes and saying no. And in connection with what we're talking about, building relationships that lift you up and that lift up the other person as well. You want the win-win relationship where you're feeling heard, you're enjoying time together, and you're bringing in the first part we talked about in mind, which is what you think is what you create, and the words you choose to use are so incredibly powerful. Even the difference between can and can't, do and don't. I will, I won't. Oh, I won't do that. I know I can't. I'm not any good at that. Wow. Okay, how about this? You know, I haven't tried it before. I've been afraid to, but I think I'll be brave. And yeah, I'm going to give that a try. Thanks for mentioning it. It's that subtle. So the words you choose are powerful. You want to choose the good ones. And when you're looking at people to hang out with, you want to hang out with people that know about this and they practice this. You're not looking for the people that sit there and talk about everything that's wrong with their families and with their bodies and with the government and with the president, you know? You want to hang out with the people who are talking about, I did the coolest thing in art class. Will you come and join me next time, or can I just show it to you? Or they look out at the sky and they go, wow, can you believe we get to live here and look at that? Wow. So do you want to think that you want to hang out with those people? The people are being positive and open. Their bodies are open. They know about lifting up. They know about stretching and extending to get to the dishes. So that's building resonant relationships. Now, saying yes and saying no and setting boundaries. This is the hard part. I get it. It's like, I don't want to hurt that person. I get that. So your first step is, if you're in a relationship that's like that and you want to create a shift in that relationship, your first step is you can share with them what you're doing. I went and heard this speaker, and I got this book, and I'm doing this online course, and this is what I'm learning. I'd love it if we could practice it together. Maybe you'd like to do the course with me. Oh, I can't do that. Really? What do you need to be able to say yes to that? This saying yes thing is big. That's a really positive word. So as you're communicating with someone and inviting them into this shift with you, you can default to that question of, what do you need to say yes to this? And you can help them to start shifting their conversation. Now, it is not your job to help them shift, but if this is someone you would like to maintain a relationship with, and it might be a family member, and those can be even trickier, this is a place to begin. Now, if that person just doesn't jump on board at all, and they're completely shut down, then your next choice is to just create more distance. You respond to the text message less frequently, you don't pick up the call as often, you don't spend as much time together. But you've started out from the positive, open-hearted perspective of, do you want to share and learn this with me? Because I really want to be more positive so I can feel better and happier in my life. I notice it's working when I try it. So when to say yes and when to say no. And if no is a problem word for you, you start and you practice small. Do you want tea today for lunch? No, I really don't. Thank you, I'd like some water. Or do you want to go to the movies today? No, you know, I think what I prefer to do is go work on my art project. So you can begin with no. Now, no is a negative word, it's also a boundary word, so it has to stay in the vernacular. You can always follow it up with a positive. You know, no, that doesn't really work for me, but this does. Would you like to join me for that? Or, you know, I really just feel like I need some quiet time today. You don't even have to say no. Will you come with me to the store? You know, I think I just need some quiet time today. I'm going to stay home and read. Thanks for asking me. That's another great response for someone that you want to put some distance between you and that person. So write your ideas down now about this. Who can you think of in your life that this might pertain to? What examples can you think of in particular with a particular person where you might want to try making a shift in this relationship? Either bringing on board as a more positive relationship or creating more distance and ultimately letting it go. That too is sometimes necessary, even with family members. So what comes up for you in your heart of hearts about relationships you'd like to shift? If anything comes up for you, this is the time to write it on your papers. I'm going to add a PS to this. This boundary setting thing starts with you, like literally with you. The first part of your training in saying no to somebody is starting to say, you don't get to say yes this time. I know that feels uncomfortable, but we're going to practice this together. This is your head and your heart talking to each other. So you start by setting that boundary with you. I will no longer say yes to that thing. Every time I sit at lunch with that person, I'm miserable. So you start the boundary setting with you. Thanks.